You ever notice how two people can have the same sun sign or even the same rising sign, but they have two completely different experiences in life? Like you'll have one person who perhaps money comes easily to them, or they're always in a great relationship, right? And you're like, oh, they've got Taurus rising. I've got Taurus rising. So maybe my life is like that too. And then you look at your life and you're like, wow, I'm like always broke and I'm always in these really shitty relationships. Why? Why is this? Astrology, tell me why. I will tell you exactly why. And when you figure this out and when you actually know how to work with it, it makes all the difference when it comes to a better life experience. So if you want to know more, stick around. You definitely don't want to miss this. Hello, my loves. As always, I hope that this video finds you well and in excellent spirits. If you're new around here, hi, hello, and welcome. My name is Mel. I'm a professional astrologer and I'm the founder of Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. So if you're new, welcome. And as always, if you are returning, welcome back. So we're talking about two people with the same rising sign, but two different life experiences. So why is that? It all boils down to what is known as your chart ruler. So every sign has a planetary ruler. So every zodiac sign is associated with a planet. So for instance, like I said before, you and someone else are Taurus rising, right? Taurus is ruled by Venus. So Venus would be your chart ruler. Now, when it comes to the chart ruler, I want you to think of the chart ruler as the masthead of a ship. So a ship has a direction, but the masthead is directly in front, meaning that it is sort of it's pointing to exactly where you're headed. Now, the chart ruler, it's super important. As a matter of fact, it's the most important planet in your natal chart. But it's not just about the planet. It encapsulates so much more, and I'll get into the more in a second. But I want you to think of it like this. Your rising sign sets the stage, but your chart ruler is the one that's actually driving the ship. Okay. Now, I want to preface this by saying that this is very much a traditional astrology concept. There are other similar concepts in other sort of schools of thought in astrology, but I practice traditional Hellenistic Western astrology, and your chart ruler is indeed the most important planet in your chart. This is like if you've ever heard someone say, oh, well, I'm very mercurial or I'm very Venusian, they're likely talking about their chart ruler because it literally not only shapes your life, but it really provides the filter by which you see life. Because remember, your chart ruler is the planet that rules the sign of your first house. Okay. So when it comes to your first house, that's how you look at the world, your opinions, how the world views you. So that's why your chart ruler is so important, or one of the reasons it's so important. Your chart ruler represents where your life, I'm not going to say where your life is headed because that's really reserved for your north node, right? But when it comes to your chart ruler, it sort of speaks to where your life is directed. And the topic that that planet represents typically gets emphasized in your life a lot. So, to go back to our Taurus rising example, your chart ruler is Venus. Venus covers the topic of relationships and of money, among other things, but that's really what Venus is known for. Those two topics may be very, I'm not going to say important. It's not like everything in your life is all about love and money. However, those topics are typically emphasized quite heavily, and how they can play out in two different charts makes the difference. So let's talk about that difference for a second. So, like I said, you and someone else have Taurus rising. They seem to have money, great relationships. They're living a soft life, if you will. Meanwhile, those are areas of life where you struggle. What makes the difference is where that planet, aka your chart ruler, is located in your natal chart. Now, this is the whole thing, and this is something that I'm actually going to be teaching in my upcoming workshop, which is all about your chart ruler. It's called the most important planet in your chart, and we go into this in depth, right? So you can not only identify where your chart ruler is, but how it's functioning for you and practical ways to use it to better your life experience. All right, so it's going down on April 23rd. It's 17 bucks. If you can attend live, that's great, but as long as you sign up, you will definitely get the recording. So if you're interested, the link is in the description box below and also tagged to this video. This is definitely something you don't want to miss because the thing is, a lot of people understand their natal chart in bits, right? And understanding the most important planet in your chart and how it's playing out in your life is information you need to know, especially if you're struggling and you don't know why. This could really give some great insights. If you're interested, sign up. Again, it's on April 23rd. Replay is available for those who sign up. All right. But in any event, where was I? Because I can go on about this all day. But so, one person with Taurus rising, living the good life, you are struggling. Now, when you're looking at your chart ruler, the ruling planet of your natal chart, you need to look at two things specifically. Well, three things specifically. A, what sign it's in, B, what house it's in, and C, its condition. Now, the condition is the part that really makes the difference. It's a bit of a thing to explain, so I'll be really going into that in the workshop. But suffice it to say, your ruling planet acts differently and expresses itself differently in different places. Some places are better than others. For example, Taurus rising, you have Venus as your chart ruler. If you've got Venus in its home sign of Taurus, meaning that you would have Venus in the first house, not only are you kind of lucky, you probably look really good too. You're probably very attractive. Whereas if you have Venus in a sign like Aries or Scorpio, not to say that you're ugly, I have Venus in Scorpio and I don't think I'm ugly for the most part, but you'll struggle with things like relationships or money or find difficulty or intensity in those topics, in those areas of life. So it really helps to understand the sign, the house, and the condition of your chart ruler. When you understand that, I'm not going to say you've cracked the code, but it can make life make a lot more sense. Trust and believe. Now, I know this may sound kind of advanced, right? Because some people are really at the stage where they're quite comfortable with, their sun, their moon, and their rising. This does take it a step further, but it is the most important planet in your natal chart. It's sort of where everything is directed. The themes of that planet are super emphasized in your life. And if they happen to be going well, you'll want to know how to keep that energy going and replicate it. If it's not going so well, you kind of want to know what you can do to sort of ameliorate that energy and work with it rather than having it drag you, right? And so, again, that's everything that we're going to be covering in this workshop. But suffice it to say, when you do know your chart ruler, everything does really start to make sense. Now, I am a Taurus rising, which is why I use that example. Plus, I have Venus in Scorpio, which is a very difficult placement for Venus. She does not like to be there. Now, for me, I have Venus in Scorpio in the seventh house, which is the house of relationships. So I'm not going to go into my whole dating history, although I could write a very juicy book about it. But needless to say, I have struggled in this area of life. I've experienced a lot of intensity, a lot of heartbreak, a lot of endings. Very scorpionic, right? But that has been a major theme in my life because relationships are where I learn. So a lot of my life lessons have definitely come from relationships. And with Venus as my chart ruler, I kind of see the world through that lens. As difficult as it has been, as wonderful as it has been too. I've also been in some really great relationships as well. That is a driving force in my life. Not to say that my driving force is to be in a relationship. I'm saying that relationships play a major role even in my personal development. My individual development has a lot to do with relationships because the relationship planet is in the relationship house in my natal chart. And now that I know that, I've known that for a while, obviously, but understanding how to work with that has made a big difference in my life in terms of how I approach relationships and kind of what I get out of them. right? And so you would take the same sort of analysis for any planet, right? Depending on what your rising sign is and thereby what your chart ruler is. But this whole process you would use to understand the most important planet in your chart and thereby understand the driving force in your life and how life can make more sense. Or perhaps life can be a little easier, or you have that aha moment and it's finally like, everything clicks into place. So, suffice it to say, your chart ruler is everything. It's everything. It is the steersman of your ship of life. When you understand it and know how to use it, you will, life will make so much more sense. I can't say that enough, right? So, again, workshop happening on April 23rd. And if you're looking for information on how to understand your chart, you'll definitely want to check out Astrology Translated. It is my short, and when I say short, I mean really short, training video where you can learn to read any placement in your natal chart quick, fast, in a hurry, and efficiently. It's literally only a 25-minute video plus a PDF guide that can literally break down exactly how to look at any placement in your natal chart. So it's a great accompaniment to this workshop because you not only understand the most important planet in your natal chart, right, via the workshop, you understand how to read the other planets in your natal chart via Astrology Translated. So if you're interested in that, the link to that will be in the description box below, as well as tagged to this video. All right, so that's pretty much all I got for you for this video. I cannot stress enough how important your chart ruler is and how this is how astrology gets serious and moves beyond pop astrology. When we talk about, oh, my rising sign is Taurus, now you're taking it a step further. Okay, so now my chart ruler is Venus. But then you're taking it a step further by saying my chart ruler is in the 10th house in Gemini. Now you understand sort of where the direction where everything in your chart is directed toward. You understand that. But now you understand what distinguishes you from other Taurus risings, right? Or from other people who have this planet in this house, in this sign, because maybe they also have Venus in the 10th in Gemini, but they're not a Taurus rising. Well, they wouldn't have it in the 10th because you could only have Venus in the 10th. You could only have that placement if you were a Taurus rising. However, if someone happens to have that same placement, it may not play out in their life the same way because it's not their chart ruler. So you see how important this one planet, this one placement in your natal chart can really dictate and help you understand yourself to a T. All right, my love. So now sound off in the comment section below. What's your chart ruler? Do you know? If you have no idea, then you really need to attend this workshop. But if not, and you know, let me know in the comments below. I'd be dying to know. And we can discuss it a little bit in the comments, which I love doing. All right, my loves, thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully, I will see you on the 23rd within my workshop. And yeah. Or maybe you'll see my face in Astrology Translated so you can start learning how to read your natal chart. But either way, this is where you drop off. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care.